I didn't have the 2 years to wait for a mainstream publisher because the work needed to be documented. What was happening in the world needed to be said.
This is a video, wait.
For as long as I can remember, writing has been a dream of mine. And to be able to celebrate the publication of 3 of my books, it was honestly a thing of my dreams. And I feel so grateful to be called to do this work in the world at this time. And as I continue to document this journey of being a Ugandan, African, Munyankole writer, I hope it inspires you to document your own story, to write your own tales, to seek out your own dreams. Because truly, we have the power to conjure worlds beyond even that which we yet dream. So here's snippets from my first ever poetry reading. Enjoy.
Every wrote to be a Josie, the dreams of Josie. And before we start, I'm going to say that I think that the kind of writing and the kind of poetry that Twasima does really kind of borders on philosophy. And I think that many times when we say that word philosophy, people think dead white men. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, you know, when a child asks themselves, why is the sky blue, on a philosophical inquiry? When a young person asks themselves, what should I do with the rest of my life? They are already on a philosophical inquiry. And I think that Twasima's books take us on that kind of philosophical inquiry, causing us to ask various questions. So I want to say to you here now that I think that you're one of the great modern philosophers of our time. And guys, let's just... But what do we do with our philosophers? You know, in some societies they behead them or they execute them, but tonight we're going to celebrate them.
This was honestly such a last-minute event. We had about a week or less to really prepare. And just to see my friends, my family, and strangers gathered reinforced in me the knowing that this work is important and that this work is necessary. Shout out to my friend, my most beloved Eshban, for really steering this conversation, and for every single person who attended, and for every single person who's read the books and engaged and, you know, watched these videos. I really do look forward to seeing where this journey takes us all.
So Twasima, as I've known her, I've watched her from my vantage point. In the last couple of years, you went and did a lot of things. Went, got yourself to university law degrees, worked in international development. Seemed like you were on a trajectory to assume a very, like, quote unquote, like white collar life. Then left all of that behind and all its trappings to start a career as a writer, as a poet. I think that my first question is, like, what possessed you, what inspired you to start all this writing?
Hi. Thank you so much for coming. This is literally the thing of my dreams, and I'm so...
So, Twasima, to start us off, would you perhaps, you know, just think, just based on the moment here right now, I think that perhaps a good way to start is to start with a few recitals from any of the books or from the book that you're holding. I mean, you're free to turn a page and go to the one that, you know, feels called to. And this is really how this conversation is going to go. We're going to follow wherever the energy takes us.
Okay. let's do this. I'm going to read out maybe 3 poems that the day before the missionaries came, the people had just walked to the cross. Milk and honey, the land still green, the nectar sweet. For we too, we had just been done winnowing. The chaff had yet to settle. If they had not had the guns, they may never have known that the visitor who had come with the plague and was here to dry their song out. The second poem that I want to read is on page 30. This is one of my, you're not supposed to have favorites as a parent, but this is truly one of my favorite poems. And it's titled, The Council of Elders Came as Women. Wise women of great foresight that foretold the fates of lands. Owitira, abakazi bakabashitama omihema y'engoma. Habayona kamalango w'abatwezi. But there were no she priests in the dini that stayed. The council of elders came as women. Now we sit, weeping at the massacres of us who has been left. That poem makes me feel so many things, but we'll discuss. And the last poem for now is The Battle of Dongola. Let me just say, this poem is littered with so much history. I learned so much writing Ebieshon when we were Deborah because I was learning and writing, right? So I would get a prompt. For example, I was so curious about Omukaba Kabalega, and I started to do research about who he was, how he lived, beyond just like the SSD questions that we study. And you know, in that research, I discovered so many things. He had been rebaptized when he was captured, you know, crazy things like that. Yeah, so Battle of Dongola. Or was it Kampala Hill? Whichever was the way. Omkuluwechibuga, fleeing nobility, distant pasts of an empire, kingdom of Makuria, ruins left to trading in their people, lost at the counties of the Banyoro, Emanze Kabeli Omkamachwa Kabalega Wakabili, Rumoma Mahanga, or John, as he was baptized by our captors. There will be casualties to this war.
Reading was whenever, I mean, you learn about the experience of what it was like for the colonialists to come, for the missionaries to come. But I think many of us didn't humanize it. Like, you know about the experience, but you don't think about what was it actually like. When to know what it was like prior to them coming, and to know the immediate destruction, like the way that COVID came and changed our lives overnight, and that was a pandemic. That didn't, I mean, okay, as our lives changed, which was not in the very dramatic way that colonialism came and disorganized our entire system. So I think that I was just reflecting on that experience as you were speaking, and how your life can actually be so normal, right? Like, there's so many practices, there's so many experiences that were...
They started to build forts. They stayed and stayed. Soon, they started to tell us of the ways our ways were not of God, not of God, not of God. We listened as we scrubbed our feet, bleached our skins, to be of God, to be of God. Here we are still nodding, agreeing that this too is theirs, watching as they claim us to move forward, right? Because things keep tugging at us from the past and we sometimes don't even know what those things are. And with the 3 poems that I just read, Ichigan, and the Council of Elders are saying, listen, this is not all we were. And then this thing came, these people came, we were violently altered. And as a result,
it's up for interpretation, and so I'm telling you what your work is. And so for me, your work, I think yesterday I was having this conversation around Uganda as a state has a very poor culture of memorialization. I think we have like 1 or 2 statues in the whole country, and the only place where we have memory or where we have a semblance of remembrance is where the colonizer was. So if you go to the source of the Nile, then they have to label it the sons who came here and decided this is the source of the Nile, and so we remember that. When you go to the Nile, the river Nile, then you see Kasha was here, then there's something. But in terms of, for instance, the liberation war in the world, we're having 26th January in terms of, but still the politics of memorialization are so scanty for us. And I know you talked about SST and how shallow also the education was, but it was also taught within the framework. It wasn't a history per se, because to me the role of the historian is to write something as it was and not give an interpretation. But what you're doing to me presents more of like an archival project, and that's how I take it. And so I love it, and it's very important, and I'm having such a blast. And I also wrote something here about language, and I was so sad when we left international development because I used to rope you into my decolonization phase. And so when I was telling Sunshine, I don't know Nyankore, and so I'm out, and she was like, no. And I remember there's a time Jennifer Makumbi was writing, and in her, I think second book and third book, she wasn't italicizing the Luganda words. And when I asked, she said, I don't write for a Western audience, they will understand. And so for me, writing in our languages, our local languages, it's sort of like a fuck you to the colonizer. Like, you took this from us, but you gave us something. Oh, I can't say that. It's sort of like to the colonizer that you took this from us, but we are taking it back in a sense. And people still understand, right? Like, I do not know Nyankore, but when you were reading, I can relate to what you're saying. I think that's what's coming to me, and I think it's such important work, and it's such a fun, and I can't wait to have it signed my book.
Yeah, we really so you can say about but I think that's such an interesting thing, and like what I hear you say is that she's a historian disguised as a poet.
Yes, but you can be both.
I think
Poets are
So in all the 3 books that you have published so far, you address so many nuanced things. Colonialism, African history, religion, patriarchy, power structures, gender roles, sexual orientation, ancestral veneration, very many, but not limited to. For me, what I take from that is that there are just so many lessons to draw from what you have shared with us so far. But I wanted to know, is there anything prior that you hope everyone who reads your books takes from your artistic expression?
if I was to pick one thing, the issue of ancestral remembrance feels very crucial to me. I think that a lot of us A lot of us don't really know where we come from, who we come from. It's been formed as if we don't, that it's not important, you know. Mainstream religion says that when someone dies, they have died, they have stopped there, you know. And I feel like that's a deliberate way to anti us from who we are. And I think a lot of what the consequences of that anti-daring are, you know. They really frail through the world. Like people who is not rooted in who they are unrooted. They frail through the world. And so ancestral remembrance, one, as a way to venerate, as a way to acknowledge that we have not made ourselves, that we are products of people who have been here before. But two, as a way of tethering us to what has happened to us, who our friends are, who our allies are, who our enemies are. And I think particularly as African people that that's so urgent and that's so necessary, right? I also think ancestral remembrance as a way of challenging mainstream religion that tells us that who we have been, who we are, our people are evil, our beliefs are primitive. So as a way of reclaiming ourselves, I think that's the one key thing. And to say that maybe our inheritance doesn't have to be tragedy or pain. Maybe our inheritance can also be joy and abundance, you know, because the scarcity in the world as we experience it it's not innate, it hasn't always been like this. This is a product of violent structures and the imagination of a few limited people. Yeah, so I would just hope that all of us would just be curious and say, okay, how can I source, how can I trace where I come from, who I come from, and what does that lead me to? Because there's this idea, mainstream religion does this universalism, there's only one true word, there's only one true way. I don't believe that because we're so multifaceted and your truths are going to lead you to different paths than my truths, and that's all fine. And I feel like in that emergence is where we can then congregate and say, okay, how do we form something new, right? Yeah. Okay, so another thing that I really write about is this question of Uganda. You know, when I was younger, I never thought that I could live anywhere else in the world. I remember we used to hear these stories about writers and artists who were in exile and, you know, God forbid, but we used to hear all these stories about people who had left, and I could never understand it because I couldn't imagine living anywhere else in the world. And then I got older, and you know, Uganda breaks your heart in small little ways. It just little by little, it can't love you the way you love it. And I wrestle a lot with what that means for me as an African, as a Ugandan, in a world where I am perhaps unable to feel safe even at home, you know? And so the next poems are exactly about that. I'm going to read 1962, which is on page, it should be on page 14 of which is on page 36 of the Deborah. So we'll start with 1962. 3 stanzas and a flag. What it must have felt like alive in those times. Mini skirts and frogs. The heroes that still walk. Men like comrades still. Finally, a chance to self-govern. Finally, we thought. And then the next one is Uganda Be Joking. A parody of a state sometimes. The news comes in tales of ridicule, things that would be of disbelief. It is all true. Yes, the state of affairs is concerning. Doctors on strike, teachers hungry, police on the streets, children begging, sell this forest, sell this swamp. The law means nothing. Courts are places for fist fights. All of this and other times, even to stability of the revolution, through your work, through your poetry. So that is amazing. And thinking also about the function of oppression, which is very much linked to robbing us of our ability to dream and robbing us of our ability to think about alternatives and to question things and to put us in a thing that we probably live in a cultural museum, nothing is ever going to change. And just reading a little bit about really just a little bit of your work and sitting here and listening to you is testament to the fact that we are still able to dream. So thank you for dreaming. And I stand your ability to dream in the face of oppression and chaos and pandemics and genocides. And the question that I have, or the 2 questions that I have, is I'm curious how you have navigated the compounding rage in the last few years or the last decade for the time that you have been in the middle of active resisting, and how you have calmed yourself long enough to be able to imagine and to dream and to create really beautiful work. And also, what is the language of your dreams? That's a question I've seen go all over the place, and I'm curious, in what language do you dream? And yeah, so thank you, really proud of you.
Is it okay to put the questions together so that you can have the last word, yeah? You okay.
You know what it is? The grass always appears greener when it's not your grass. I think, like people say to me all the time, like, oh, you seem brave or sure. No, that's totally untrue. I think perhaps I have I guess it's a curse and also a blessing of being able to visibly in my eyes see what we could be. Like, I so visibly see it. The world as it is honestly doesn't make sense to me. Just like, it's not a normal place to live. What are we doing, friends? Can we admit that things are a bit tough? I'm like, you mean we are born to just like pay bills and die, and like war is inevitable? Like, why do we live on an earth where water comes free from the ground, but then they send it back to us? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. But that brings me a lot of sadness. a lot of deep sadness. So I cry a lot about the state of the world, about our lives in it. And now I've accepted that that's just a natural process of my creative journey and stuff. When I stopped working for NGOs, I thought I was done. I was like, I'm done with that. Instead, it can't be done because here I am writing political books still.
I just wanted to share, I have a small request, back on the point of tribal peoples. I love this poem so much, it's marked one of my favorites, because every time I read, I come back to one very amazing part, which I believe it's a belief that you might have written in one sentence because it sits so perfectly. The one that says, soon they started to tell us of the ways of our ways were not of God, not of God, not of God. We listened as we scrubbed our feet, which our skins to be of God, of God, of God. Now as I read this, I'm filled with so much emotion, it's like a rush. But then when I read this, I don't want it to be just my emotion. I want to hear your tone in it. I want to feel your emotion. That way I can interpret it in the way you wrote it. So my request is that you tell me of how you felt when you wrote this. And then I'm thinking when I was thinking of emotion, I was very happy that you went back to the same book.
Spirituality and African religion within voodoo and juju, black magic, evil, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. And one of my working theories is perhaps we need to reclaim that. Perhaps we need to and I want, when I say voodoo, I also don't mean just to say, what did I feel writing that world people? I think sadness. I think rage, but when the rage distills and settles, sadness. Sadness because it's still happening even now. Sadness because a lot of us may never in this lifetime even see differently, And also rage, because I think how dare they?
Thank you.
And also how dare us be complicit in our own matter. So
That's powerful. There's a hand here.
Hi, I'm lost friend. I have just two comments and one question. And I think one, thank you so much for the work. It's really immense piece of literary work and it's very engaging. Like you, I think the first non-practicing Catholic in my family, and I now have two unbaptized children, and I feel my mother keeps saying I'll go to hell. And I keep telling her if King David is in heaven, then probably I'll have a seat closer to their God. But the question that I had for you is like reclaiming spirituality, and I have this contest with myself a lot. The sources of that spirituality, are they through communion and conversation with friends and family, and in societies like ours where the interaction with friends and family and the church is almost on a daily basis, you end up getting pulled back. For example, every time my mom comes home, the first question is, when are we baptizing these kids? And I keep reminding her, probably will not happen unless they choose it themselves. So I want to know like the tools that you use for the spirituality. And
The mafia was fighting
Okay, so this question of religion and spirituality, perhaps, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know because the tentacles of Abrahamic faith are so deep and so ingrained that I'll be honest, even now talking about it makes me a bit antsy because I don't want to offend None of us want to go to jail and ban for eternity, you know what I mean? So I know that I'm very into touchy subjects, but I feel that it's so important because I'm so convinced that part of the reason why our oppression persists is because the Creator, the God that is universal and has been preached to us, is seemingly okay with it. You know, like a God who justifies mass murder of people simply because they don't pray to that God. That seems so strange. Like, does that not seem strange? And also, like, okay, what are the facts? The facts are the missionaries came and brought this religion. The facts also are that the facts also are that previous we believed in something. Like we believed in things. We believed in the divine. And so I'm on a quest of rediscovering, redefining, exploring what that other thing is. I feel that with any practice, religious or not, one of the reasons why Christianity is so successful is because every Wednesday you're at cell, every Friday you're at lunch hour, every Sunday you're in church. That's what I mean? Whereas with, right, or yeah, I've been there. Whereas for us who are sourcing, like where do we commune? Who do we commune with, you know? So for me, what I've been doing, and I can say I've been on this journey for maybe like, since our dad passed, so maybe about 6 or so years. The thing that I started with was connect, like seeking out my ancestors, to connect, like to commune. It was easier for me to sort of have the understanding of ancestry and communion after our dad passed, because it didn't make sense to me for someone to say, oh, your dad is now something. I was like, but how? You know, like that doesn't make sense. So that it was sort of like an easier way for me to begin to explore like communing with the ancestors, partly out of grief, deep needing to connect, but also then out of like the understanding that it can't be that we are left alone. Like I just refuse to believe that. So that's one of the practices that I started with, that I still like, not ancestral worship, ancestral communion. To just say, hey, spirits, I feel lost, support me. Hey, I need, you know, I'm struggling with this. Hey, can I learn? A lot of these books I feel like I could never have written in my own if not for knowledge finding it through like my guidance, you know? And like why should saints only be white people? Why can't they be our people who are no longer a lot of Greek gods were stolen from Kemet, from Africa. Of course, there's a lot of romanticism in that theory, but I think it's allowed, right? A little bit. We must romanticize a little bit because a lot of us otherwise have no way to get into that thought process. And so he said, well, you know, the Greeks came, they realized that you people were doing that. They came, they went, they saw, they took it back, and then they came back and sold it to you, but in different names. So now instead of Osset, they say Isis. And that's sort of, because language is so important, because names are so important, they hold so much power. So when you, instead of, so that invocation, in your invocation, you're invoking the power of a Greek theory, a Greek idea, a Greek God, right? And that Greek theory, idea, God, is not interested in your liberation, they're interested in your subjugation. Yeah, so, you know, no answers, just theories.
understand. And I bought your book last year, the one of Deborah, and it's really hit. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to record tonight. But I didn't. But now that I'm here, like it's good that I've like seen this like in the beginning of my journey and you meet so I'm going to be more serious and learn the language and become serious. So I was also just making a few comments as we were reading, and I love how you were contextualizing colonization for Africans. And like you say, if we don't understand the gravity, we don't understand like what you have your entire life just changed. And I think literature is a great way to capture our reality now. And this is a great place to start. Usually want to be a teacher for children. So teach how to learn properly in a very way. But I would say also as a fantastic teacher for adults to us to learn how to deconstruct and unlearn all the things that are deeply rooted in our daily lives that are truly destroying us instead of making us better and rooting us in our true selves. Right? Okay.
I see that. Well, and then I will send us off with good wishes, and I pray that all of us who are seeking answers will find them. So Joseph's dream. That's page 11. Of the book. Mukure Chiroto, Ichindo Siri. It came to me that these two are the dreams of others. We too are the dreams of others. Dreams that we have been told are not ours. After all, it was said that some dreams, they said, are not for those who look like us. Reba ndosirechinde chiroto, naleriso anokwezi ninyozi, nitutangira, seated among our kin rested, gathered in homes that are ours, on lands bequeathed by foremothers. The sun, the moon, the stars swaying with us. Praises dripping down our throats. At last, we claim home for us. At last, we can claim us for us. Thank you so much for being here. This is truly the thing of my dreams, and I'm so honored that you spend the time. I send so much goodness back to you all. Bye. Thank you for watching thus far, and I hope that you enjoyed a few snippets from the first ever poetry reading. What a thing of my dreams. I feel so honored to be called to do this work, and I look forward to seeing how this journey unfolds of me as a writer, a poet, a shepherd of sorts, into the new worlds that we are conjuring together. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thank you to every single person who has read the books, shared, liked a video, etc. I'm documenting on this here YouTube because I feel that there's so many people who have something to say and don't know where to begin or feel unsure or whatever, and I hope that you feel inspired in one way or another, because we truly need all of us if we are to win ourselves back from all the oppressions that threaten to tear us apart. So, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, buy my books, share, think together, and yeah, light and love. May the ancestors continue to guide us.